Hello and welcome to episode 55 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Of course, I am your host, Rick Doherty. On today's show, Marisa from Chicago will be joining me. Marisa is a big Harry Potter fan, from the books to the movies to the theme park lands at Universal Orlando Resort. While I agree with her about the theme park lands, I've never seen the movies or read the books. For the next two episodes, we'll be discussing Diagon Alley and Hogsmeade from our differing perspectives, and maybe Marisa will also try to talk me into becoming a Harry Potter fan. After that, my wife Courtney will be back on the podcast for another dining review. We'll be talking about our recent visit to Beaches and Cream Soda Shop at Disney's Beach Club Resort at Walt Disney World. Before we get started, I want to remind everyone that I'm trying really hard to raise money and awareness for the nonprofit organization Break the Silence Against Domestic Violence. This is part of my upcoming 620-mile pilgrimage on the Ireland Way. When I decided to push myself in this particular way, with this particular challenge, I wanted to make sure that I was doing something for a cause that means a lot to me. Break the Silence Against Domestic Violence gives survivors a platform to tell their stories, and they do a lot of other wonderful things as well. There's a link in the description to donate to the organization in honor of my pilgrimage. It would absolutely mean the world to me if you would give any amount that you can afford. I've already saved all of the money I need for this adventure and will not be taking a dime of the money donated. At the end of the episode, we'll have our second question to get you qualified for our giveaway in honor of the 1-year anniversary of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. We're giving away a number of Disney and Universal items that I either bought or acquired as a normal theme park guest. This giveaway is not associated with either company. Simply answer the question in the comments section for the YouTube version of this episode. If the answer is correct, you get 3 entries, and if it is incorrect, you still get 1. Make sure to be subscribed to the YouTube channel, and you may be able to get some hints at twitter.com/TGTTpodcast. The drawing will be made with a random number generator and will take place on Wednesday, March 2nd at 9 p.m. The winner will be announced on March 3rd's episode of the podcast. I can only ship to the United States, so please keep that in mind. With all of that out of the way, let's get started. Thank you for joining us, Marisa.
Thanks for having me. I am excited to be here.
So we are going to get into the nitty-gritties today, and I love the Wizarding World of Harry Potter at Universal Orlando Resort. I think it is one of the best themed lands. Well, it's actually 2 of the best themed lands in any theme parks around the world. However, I've never been a really big Harry Potter fan, but Marisa is a huge Harry Potter fan. So it's going to be fun to sort of talk about these 2 lands and get both perspectives from somebody who doesn't know the movies, who doesn't know the books, and somebody who is just basically a scholar in these things.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of fun.
So we're just going to get the uncomfortableness out of the way at the very beginning. You can't address Harry Potter right now with talking about J.K. Rowling and her online, essentially, war against trans people. And we wanted to state absolutely for the record that nothing we are saying today endorses anything that J.K. Rowling has said. And we also want people to know that one of the things about this podcast is we've always tried to be positive. If we don't like something, we will talk about it. But I want this to be a place that anybody can come and feel welcome. And if you don't feel safe for whatever reason, you can always message any of us on Twitter or anything like that if you're in a bad situation. So I wanted to get all that out of the way. But Marisa, as somebody who loves these movies and loves these books, how has this recent crusade of J.K. Rowling's affected your love of the canon?
You know, it's hard because it's affected it in a major way. You know, I've always been a Harry Potter fan since I was 6 years old. So right when it first started, you know, I watched the first movie as soon as it came out on VHS. It's been a part of my whole life growing up. And to see this author who for a long time I respected and admired turn into someone who, you know, to put it lightly, is as a garbage person. Like, she's really turned into a terrible person with views that, I know you and I don't align with. We don't stand for what she does now. And it's really turned her away from being a role model at this point. There's a part of it that kind of tarnishes the series a little bit because you think, this same person who has these thoughts and these views was capable of writing this. And, there's going to be some crossover, and giving money to that gives money to her. So at the same time, though, this is also this wonderful world that a lot of people have found comfort and safety in, and it has formed these incredible communities with incredible fans. And it's led me to finding so many friendships, and all of those people that I've met don't agree with what J.K. Rowling is trying to preach and trying to turn her online, offline presence into. So I do think it's possible to achieve a little bit of separation between the two. And I'd like to go into this focusing on finding that separation.
When we've had conversations before, I think one of the things that you stressed, and I agree with it as well, is that if this helps somebody, maybe somebody who is trans or is in a marginalized community, and they read these Harry Potter books and they get something out of it, I can't question that. And if you're getting something positive out of it, I am really, really happy for you. So I'm not going to judge anybody who buys the wand at Universal Orlando Resort. I'm not going to judge anybody who gets all the robes and all the sweatshirts. If it helps you, that's what's important. J.K. Rowling has so much money that the amount of money you're giving her for buying a butterbeer isn't changing her life. It's just hard when you put these things into perspective. I've talked about it before. My favorite comedian used to be Louis C.K. My favorite actor, or at least living actor after Philip Seymour Hoffman died, was Kevin Spacey. And those things, I couldn't enjoy Louis C.K. anymore. I couldn't enjoy Kevin Spacey anymore because I thought it was an act. I thought they were good people who were putting on an act. And then when I realized it wasn't an act, it just made everything feel dirty to me. I don't think Harry Potter has to feel dirty for you because of these things happening. And I will not judge anybody who gets love out of these books, out of these movies, out of these theme park lands. So with that being said, let's start in Diagon Alley, because I think this is right up there with the most impressive experiences you can have in a theme park.
Diagon Alley, I think, is without a doubt the best themed theme park land. Just even from the way you enter it, if you don't enter through the train, if you just enter it through that brick wall that looks like you're going through a brick wall to go into Diagon Alley, just like you see in the movies, just like it's described in the books. I mean, you really feel like you're transported there. I will never, ever forget walking into there for the first time and seeing that. I'll never forget, my friends' faces doing the same thing and just being blown away by it. And when you walk in, you see all the shops and it's all the colors and everything, as it's supposed to be. You get Gringots with the dragon on top that will breathe fire every once in a while. And it's just this incredibly immersive experience that you can really get lost in.
So from what I've heard from people who are way bigger Harry Potter fans than me, who've seen all the movies, who've read all the books, it's not even like it's just really well themed. It's everything is in the exact spot that it is in the movies and in the books. You turn to your right when you go through the door and you see the candy shop. Like, that is exactly where the candy shop is in the movies. This is, like I said, from what I've heard, because having not seen the movies, I wouldn't know. But is that accurate?
From what I can remember, yes. I mean, it really feels like you're walking onto the movie set, except it's more real. It's this really bizarre kind of feeling where you feel like you've walked into this world. Like you're not in our world anymore. You're somehow now in the wizarding world, because you're right. You look around and everything is exactly how you would expect it to be. You go into the shops and the way they're decorated, the products they have, it's all so authentic. The Ollivander's wand shop, when you go in there and that whole experience and the wand ceremony that they do, and they choose someone to pick their wand. It all really just feels like a very authentic piece of that world come to life.
Anybody who listens on a regular basis, our good friend Sarah, actually her husband got picked for the wand ceremony, and he knows about as much about Harry Potter as I know, so he talked them into letting her pick the wand or have the wand pick her, or however that goes. That was kind of funny because I could imagine being put on the spot in that situation and just not knowing what to do there.
You just have to make it up as you go along.
So I don't know how many people know this, but there actually was a pseudo bidding war between Walt Disney World and Universal over who would get to make Harry Potter Land. And one of the things that gave the win to Universal is that in Diagon Alley, Walt Disney World was like, we have too many crowds. We get all these people coming to the parks. We want to just make Diagon Alley wider so there's more space for people to walk. And J.K. Rowling was like, no, I want this to be how it looks in the movies, how it was in my mind in the books. And I think that sort of ended up helping. I honestly think that it is best that these ended up at Universal for a variety of reasons. I'm very glad they are there, and I'm glad that we have this experience. So we have these ultra-themed lands in both theme parks. We have Walt Disney World has Batuu and Galaxy's Edge, and then we have Diagon Alley over at Universal Studios Florida. I know one of the experiences I get the biggest kick out of when I'm there, and I was talking with our mutual friend Ty when we were there a few weeks ago. She never knew Nocturne Alley was there, and then she just went once walking down. She thought it was a bathroom. And then she walked, and this is probably the best theming in all of Diagon Alley. So why don't you explain this both from where it shows up in the books and the movies, and then how it looks when you're at Universal?
So Nocturne Alley is like the anti-Diagon Alley. Diagon Alley's got all the shops and it's, quote unquote good. But Nocturne Alley is where, the dark wizards go to find their dark magic supplies. That it's a little shady, it's not really the place you want to be found in. And in the movies, and in the books, Harry accidentally stumbles upon it when he accidentally travels there because he speaks unclearly. And when you see it on screen, you get this very evil vibe from it. And you kind of know that it's definitely not somewhere Harry wants to be or should be. He's in danger. When you turn down this little path in Diagon Alley in the parks, and it is pretty hidden, it's easy to walk right past it and miss it. But there's this little sign on the wall that points and it says Nocturne Alley. And you make this little turn and it's dark and cool, and you have this shop and shrunken heads, and you have all this kind of eerie, spooky things going on. And it's always chilly there. Even in, the middle of summer when you're there and you go into Nocturne Alley, it's cool, it's shady, and it really captures that vibe. Except, it's a lot more fun in the theme park because you're not in any danger. But it's a really just outstanding addition that proves the level of detail they've gone into. They didn't have to put that in there. Diagon Alley would have been incredible without it, but they did. And it's so much better for it.
Absolutely. Have you ever eaten in Leaky Cauldron, the restaurant there in Diagon Alley? And if you did, could you sort of give me your experience?
Yes. So I believe it was at the Leaky Cauldron for breakfast. And they have this egg leek and mushroom pastry thing. Oh my goodness. It is so ridiculously good. I mean, I went there with my friend and we tried it the first day. We loved it so much. We went back the next day to get it again. It was so delicious. You get actually very large portions there. It's enough where if you're not super hungry, you could probably split it because you get at least for breakfast, we got our main, and then we also got potatoes and fruit on the side, and it comes with a drink too. So you get a lot of food, and it's all very good. They've got some more traditional items like that. They've got more American fare. So there is something for everyone, depending on what you're looking for. But the theming inside of it is amazing. When you walk in and you see the chandeliers with the candles and the pictures up on the walls, It's hard to believe you're in a theme park.
And what about the ice cream shop there in Diagon Alley? Have you tried the ice cream shop?
I can't eat ice cream, so I haven't. But my friend, when we went, she got the butterbeer ice cream and she loved it. She said it was fantastic. So I've heard that that's one of the best butterbeer treats. She said she liked that better than the fudge.
And here I go, and I'm going to feel like a jerk because at the beginning of this episode, I said this whole thing about inclusion and wanting everybody to feel welcome, and then I totally forgot that you can't have ice cream, and I apologize
Not
for that.
your fault.
The only reason I brought it up because recently during the Orlando Informer meetup when food was free, well, it wasn't free, it was included in your extremely high price for the Orlando Informer meetup, I took the time to go check out some of this ice cream. I did have the butterbeer ice cream, which they were just handing out to people waiting in line, thinking they might get people out of line by giving it to them. That was really good. But I also got the Earl Grey tea and lavender ice cream. This was recommended. I mentioned Ty earlier. Her daughter said she got this and absolutely loved it. And I was like, okay, it's free. I'll give it a shot. Because if I don't like it, I don't have to finish it. It blew me away how good this was. You have to be prepared for it not to taste like traditional ice cream. Like, you have to be prepared to not get the same sweetness you're used to getting with a chocolate or a vanilla or something like that. But once you've rectified everything in your brain, you're going to love it. It is so good, and I can't believe this continued to make it past the testing stage where people weren't like, this isn't going to work. I'm glad they tried it because it's really good.
So I love Earl Grey tea. That's like one of my favorite things. So now you've convinced me I need to go with someone and bribe them to get the ice cream so I can just like try a bite of it. Because now I need to know. It sounds so good.
Of course, in Diagon Alley, there are more shows. There's also experiences like Butterbeer, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But there's one ride. So talk about the ride Escape from Gringots at Diagon Alley in Universal Studios, Florida.
So Escape from Gringots, the plot is essentially you go on a tour of Gringots. It goes wrong, and now you have to escape.
So just for the novice, what is Gringots?
So Gringotts is the bank of the Wizarding World. It's the only bank ever mentioned. So as far as we know, that's the only place you can go to get money. So it's a pretty busy place. And in the books, it comes up a few times in different ways. In one of the later books, it comes up pretty significantly as somewhere that the main characters have to break into. So when you're on this ride, you are supposed to be going on a tour of Gringotts, and instead you end up on this tour when they break in. So now you're trying to escape with them. It's a chaotic, not supposed to be like this kind of ride. And it's so much fun. The ride itself, you're on a track, you're in a car, so you do physically move throughout it. But there are also screen elements and 3D elements to it. So it's this nice blend of both ride versions, ride systems. And it's a lot of fun. It's high speeds, turns, twists, drops. Very exciting.
So there is one 25-foot drop if anybody has issues with drops. Now, if somebody has issues with motion sickness, I like to compare rides motion sickness-wise to two rides I think almost everybody knows if they're going to these theme parks. Star Tours at Hollywood Studios and the Simpsons ride here at Universal. What would you say is the comparison with those two rides?
I think it's in between. I think if you can do Star Tours and you enjoy Star Tours, you should give Gringotts a try. I think the physical elements help break it up a little bit. I personally don't often get motion sickness, but Simpsons made me really motion sick, and Gringotts I didn't have any problems with. So on that scale, I don't think it's nearly as bad as Simpsons. If you got off that ride and you went, oh my gosh, I can never do it again, I think it's still worth trying Gringotts.
Marisa will continue this discussion about the Wizarding World of Harry Potter in next week's episode. That's when we'll talk about Hogsmeade at Universal's Islands of Adventure. Due to some of the heavier topics we were forced to mention, I just want to share the Trans Lifeline hotline number. This is a peer-to-peer support service run by transgender people. In the U.S., you can call 877-565-8860, and in Canada, the number is 877-330-6366. We tried our best to be sensitive to all of our listeners, but we admit that we don't know everything. We just want everybody to feel welcome here as a diversion from all of life's problems. Now, I'm going to bring my wife Courtney onto the show for another dining review. Thanks for being here, Court.
Nice to be here, Rick.
We recently checked out Beaches and Cream Soda Shop at Beach Club Resort. I always love making reservations for restaurants at Beach Club when I'm not going to be in the theme parks. On the day of the 50th anniversary, October 1st of last year, I made a breakfast reservation for Cape May Cafe because I couldn't get a theme park reservation and I had to work that night anyway, so it would have been a waste of a theme park reservation. But this way, I got to spend the day at Walt Disney World, and this is what we recently did when Courtney's annual pass had blackout dates and we wanted to go hang out at Walt Disney World. So we went to Beaches and Cream. We're going to start with sides. We didn't get an entree here. We both got sides. Courtney, you got the cheese and bacon tots. These are tater tots with cheese sauce, bacon, red onions, and garlic peppercorn ranch. They were $9. Were they worth it?
In my opinion, yes. I enjoyed them. The sauces were great. The tater tots were perfectly cooked. The texture was great. And I like a good crispy tater tot on the outside, perfect on the inside with a great sauce. I'm a sucker for that. I thought they were really good.
And I got the loaded plant-based tots with chili, cheese, sour cream, and green onions, only I asked for no sour cream. These are 100% plant-based, so vegans and vegetarians can enjoy them. They were also $9. Like Courtney said, the tots were crispy, except for in the center when too much of the sauce kind of made them a little soggy. But either way, it was a great chili taste. The fake cheese wasn't waxy like a lot of plant-based cheeses. And having a little bit of spicy and a little bit of the savory potato flavor was really good at a restaurant that specializes in ice cream, because you knew the dessert was going to be your focus and you were going to have a lot of sweet. So getting some salty, savory, spicy right before getting something obnoxiously sweet was a really good idea. And I'll say $9 for the portion size probably wasn't the best deal in the world, but you're at Walt Disney World, so food is going to be a little more expensive than it is anywhere else. For our desserts, Courtney got the special 50th anniversary milkshake, and because this is Walt Disney World, it wasn't just a milkshake. There was a cake on top of it. It was a whole experience, so talk about it.
Right. Well, especially for the 50th celebration, they wanted to go a little bit over the top. And we have a theming of some blue and purple colors. So you had a piece of a birthday cake on top of the shake, and the shake in a mason jar style jar, which was plastic, but to give you an idea of the size, the portion size. I loved it. I did think it was a little overly sweet, so I didn't eat all of the cake, but the milkshake was great. It was phenomenal. It was very high quality, very thick, very well made, a little bit of whipped cream on the top, mostly vanilla flavored, and I believe the entire shake was meant to be a birthday cake flavor and a birthday cake theme throughout. Sprinkles on the rim, the whole deal. It was really fun to eat.
And I got the mini Mickey souvenir sink. This is not cheap, $23, but it does come in a souvenir bowl that you get to take home with you. Vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry ice cream topped with pineapple. I don't really remember the pineapple. Strawberry, hot fudge, peanut butter, whipped cream, Oreo cookies, chewy brownie, assortment of sprinkles and morsels and cherries. This was a lot. I think the thing that surprised me when I first dove into this dessert was it tasted a lot like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, just with strawberry jelly instead of grape jelly. That was the most pleasant surprise I could have had because it was really good without being, like you'll say sometimes about Disney treats, too sweet. Because it had that peanut butter flavor and it had fresh fruit flavor. I can deal with that type of sweet a lot better than some of the other kinds of sweets that you get in some of these overpowering desserts. But of course, whipped cream, Oreo cookies, brownies, it definitely was sweet. You're definitely getting that sweet tooth satisfied and beyond satisfied. For $23, was it the biggest serving of ice cream I've ever had? Probably not, but it's an experience. It's one of those Instagrammable meals because it looks so cool. I didn't want to do the kitchen sink that serves 4 people that's $35 because I thought I might have been a little too sick. And we had another dining reservation later in the day, so I definitely didn't want to do too much. And I know you're thinking, a souvenir sink, you're already doing too much. But all in all, I had a really good time at this restaurant. And we have to state that our server was awesome. So why don't you talk about our server, Courtney?
Yeah, so our server's name was Herlina from Indonesia. She was awesome. You can tell that she really takes pride in her job and that she's been doing it a while. She was conversational. She noticed that I was wearing a special dress, which was Hunchback of Notre Dame themed, and she was talking about us visiting France. That was a fun conversation, and it was just nice for her to notice that and talk to us about that. But that wasn't really why she was so great. I think she just did a great job. She provided great service. She did talk to us, like I said, and she was conversational. She was fun. She made it a little bit more fun than maybe it would have normally been. But then she was on the ball with noticing that we were done with our tater tots when it was time for the sundae and the shake to come out. And then also the timing of, I'm ready to help you if you need help to take your souvenirs home. So here's a load of napkins and wet paper towels and suggestions for how to kind of clean everything up with a to-go bag. Just phenomenal service. Like I said, someone who has been working there a while and really takes pride in their service.
So I like to get my sodas with no ice. And when she brought the soda, she accidentally put ice in it. And I always try to remember that it's such a weird request that most servers don't get. So when I tell them, I always say, I don't mean to be a jerk, but would you mind if I had this soda with no ice? Just because I know it's an unusual request. Well, she came back and it was like, it turns out I'm the jerk because I wrote it down. And like, she was fun. Obviously, she knew she wasn't a jerk for doing it, but just that, this little thing, and she took responsibility for it when she absolutely had no reason to take responsibility for anything. It's not a big deal. I just really liked that, and she made a joke out of it, that she was the jerk, and turned it into this little, like, inside joke. But Beaches and Cream definitely lived up to the hype for me, maybe a little more expensive than I would like to spend for this type of meal. But it's Walt Disney World, and I'm always going to spend a little bit more than I want on a meal. So, especially if you have kids, I think this is almost a must-do for a lot of families because you can get that kitchen sink that serves 4 for $35 and probably serve 5 out of it. A family of 5 could have their entire desserts done for that $35 price tag. And once you start talking about Walt Disney World prices, that's actually not that bad.
Yeah, so I think this is a location that does get a lot of hype, and I think it lives up to the hype. We have been wanting to go here for a while, and we didn't necessarily go because we usually end up at Epcot. Epcot has the Food and Wine Festival and Flower and Garden Festival, and those festivals at which we love to eat. So we didn't always get a chance to go here, and I kept saying, this is a bucket list item. And I really think that a lot of families look forward to this as a big highlight of their vacation, and I really think that, yes, it does. It lives up to the hype, it's a fun treat, it's a cute location, and it gives you a fun theme of a little bit of an old-time soda shop.
Thank you so much for being back on the show, Courtney.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty, and I'm going to give you this week's question to be entered to win the 1-year anniversary prize package. Just answer this question in the comments for the episode on the YouTube channel and be subscribed to our channel. A correct answer is good for 3 entries, and an incorrect answer is worth 1 entry. You can find clues at twitter.com/TGTT podcast. So here we go with the question. In August of last year, I finally met frequent podcast guest Sarah from Seattle for the first time in person. We met up for a Disneyland vacation. What was the first ride we rode together on that trip? Good luck. This has been episode 55 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Marisa from Chicago will be back next Thursday, and we'll wrap up our conversation about the wizarding world of Harry Potter at Universal Orlando Resort. Until then, have a great week.